All right, welcome back to the Rise and Go podcast. Oh no,
All
you're
right.
good. You're
Oh,
good.
okay. All right.
I'm
You
doing
pretty
I'm
okay.
doing
You
the
doing your
intro.
thing, doing your warm
Yeah,
up.
we got a busy man here with us today, so no, I'm excited to record this episode today. My name is Mike Davis. I am the host of the Rise and Go podcast. Just for our listeners, I want to give a quick shout out here and let you know where you can find us on all of our social media. On Instagram, it is Elevant MPLS, so that's ELEVANT MPLS. On TikTok, we are Elevant5. On Facebook, you can find us at Elevant. But for the podcast here, you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Music, and all other streaming platforms. Just look for the Rise and Go podcast. We just updated our thumbnail image on there. So we're really excited about the direction we're headed. We're off to a great start here in the new year. But without further ado, as I always would like to do, let's have our guest introduce himself.
I'm Donnie Brooks, and I serve as the Director of Athletics here at Macalester College in St. Paul, Minnesota.
Awesome. No, we've gotten to know each other as, I've been with Macalester here for the last 5 years. But, what I'm really excited about is to learn a little bit more about your background. So take us as far back as you like, but tell us a little bit more how you got into, being an athletic director and, in the position you are today.
Yeah, as far back as a baby, I knew I was coming out to be an athletic director.
Okay, all right.
No, but I'll take you actually pretty far back. One of the first things that got me really interested in athletics was being cut from a team.
Sure.
And staying on as a manager. So I played football. I thought I could be a half decent basketball player, and I must have got cut within like the first 15 minutes of practice. And the basketball coach, who's a really good guy by the name of Dave Hudek, told me, hey, you could stick around and be the manager of the team. And I did that for 4 years. Like, I had a great experience learning. And Coach Hudek was probably one of the first people who made me want to engage in sport differently, not just see myself as an athlete, but to see myself as something different and somebody who could help and serve people. But Coach Hudek kind of had me chasing a dream, and kind of, whenever we're chasing a dream, sometimes it becomes the dream deferred. And that happened to me in my first 2 years of college. I decided not to play collegiate sports, and I missed the heck out of it, but I also wanted to pursue this dream of teaching and coaching. So while working at a summer camp, the athletic director introduced me to Springfield College in Springfield, Mass. For those of you who don't know, birthplace of basketball, Dr. James Naismith, and all of these other excellent teachers, coaches, administrators, went to school there. When I got introduced to it, I was like, this is where I need to be. And so recruited myself to the football team there, and had a short career as the most injured athlete in the country, probably. But also, had some great experiences on and off the field, which led to internships and other things. Came home, interned to Houston, Texas, interned for the Houston, Texans, while I was also like teaching and coaching. So I was doing a lot of stuff, and have always stayed engaged and busy in a lot of different things within the arena of sport. But then I knew I kind of had to go to grad school. So even like sitting as an intern and looking into other cubicles, there were kids who they were not kids, they were grown-ups who went to like Penn for business school, University of Texas, and received advanced degrees. I knew I had to go back and get my master's, and decided to go back to Springfield. And one thing led to another in this place where I had, worked as a summer camp counselor. The Urban League of Springfield said, we've started a charter school and we're about to play our first seasons of varsity sports, and we need an athletic director. So while I'm coaching, while I'm trying to, get acclimated to being a grad student, I've also taken on this job of being a high school AD and developing programs. And so all of those experiences were enriching in a way in which they provided me this outlet, not to just coach and recruit students, but to be in like the daily lives of students who are developing, growing, developing their own leadership philosophies. But also like going through some challenging times as teenagers do. There was something about that job that I love, that like I'd be tired as hell in class, not focused on my grad work, because I'm thinking about how I'm going to make this charter school athletic department better. And I like coaching. I like the active, engaging part of coaching. I hated film. I didn't want to sit in the office and watch film and draw circles, all night. And so, just understanding what appealed to me led me to apply for certain jobs. And although I was kind of headed towards this path that I was going to have to make a choice, Williams College had an internship through the NCAA, which allowed me to both do coaching and administration. So I started as a football coach and an intern administrator. I continued on there coaching football and lacrosse. And then ultimately my boss was headed to Dartmouth in my 4th year there. And he said, listen, I don't have a job for you, but get your car pointed north. And so a year later, I was at Dartmouth heading into my first full-time administrative opportunity as assistant AD for peak performance, which was really an umbrella for integrating everything that could help a student athlete be successful academically, athletically, and personally. So you think of all the things professional athletes, European soccer students, European soccer professional athletes are doing to get better: massage therapy, sports psychology, strength conditioning, thinking about their career and development after the game. We were doing all of those things at a Ivy League institution. And so that's where I guess I really honed the practice of student development and how to graduate folks to success. But, helping them not just kind of think about where their goal is, but how do we help students exceed their goals on a regular basis? And that kind of model is where I've taken on the Millsaps College, where I was there for 2.5 years. And now finally here at Macalester, where we're trying to do things every day that we really haven't accomplished before. So Macalester is a little bit tougher nut to crack than some of the other institutions, at a place where there may not be a long history of success. But I will say I'm excited about where we're going, and to have a program where, literally every team is competitive now, and we're trending championship driven. It's a good time to be here, and I'm excited about the future that's ahead of us.
Yeah, as a baseball coach here, that was something that Coach Parrington, when we initially were chatting about the opportunity, he warned me, it's like, this is going to be a different style of, coaching in baseball than what you're probably used to. It was so interesting because, Macalester values are very important to each team. And I know each team may have some different values, but how they are driven by that, how they are focused on that each and every day, and how we have lessons that are like brought into different parts of our organization. And I was like, wow, when I was in college, I just played baseball, and that's something that I'm really excited to chat with you about, is to kind of get a deeper dive into, the athletic department and how you run things here. Like, what are like some of the most important things on a day-to-day basis that you focus on, and kind of just give us a better idea?
Yeah, I use the term running things loosely. Some days I feel like I'm along for the ride, but I think when the culture gets to a certain point, that means everybody's just doing their work, but it's all kind of fulfill the same mission. I'll say the Macalester is different, as you mentioned. Like, we have a lot of students who really believe and truly know that they're going to change the world and impact the world differently. And you're right. Like, when I was in college, I was trying to have a good time. I didn't care what I was doing. It was about the good time. Here, our students, if you don't believe you could have an impact on the world, you hang around students here for 4 years, you're going to know that you can have a greater impact on whatever direction you choose to go. And that's organization, family, community. And so I had to spend my early years here, because at first I tried to fight it, and say, we need to make ourselves more sporty, if you will. And that means some of the other stuff is not going to be as important. And I think, I at first I used to say, I'm not changing. Macalester is going to have to change. And I won't say I've changed, but I've evolved. And now I've really spent my early years trying to figure out, how do we create what we're doing and make it fit within the Macalester ethos. And so what we do now, it's really disruption. We're trying to disrupt the MIAC, right? It speaks to the activist language of our institution. The MIAC has been the way the MIAC has been for forever. The same old names doing the same old thing. And it's like, all right, well, how do we disrupt this? How do we find students who could come in and challenge the status quo? And that's what we recruited on. And it speaks to both the folks who are across the street who never really wanted to engage in athletics, but it also speaks to the kids who I call the baby sharks. And those are the students who want to come and challenge right away. And I tell them, look at our upper class students like they're the baby seals. And your job is to chase their playing time, to chase their minutes, to chase their innings. And if they do that every year, like the students who are ahead of them, they got to get better. They got to move to the side. And so I will say, we're not in a situation where we could just come to Macalester and clean house and say we're getting all the kids, right? We have to get students who fit the place culturally because we want them to stay. We want to retain them and develop them while they're here. But also we have to get students who are comfortable with leading and pushing others. And when they do that, they're going to make us better over time. So I think what you see, and if you call it how we run it, right, it's just this constant leveling up. It's programs leveling up each year and doing things that are like, whether it be innovation and stop doing the things that we don't need to do anymore, but also it's like, how do we do it in partnership so we don't have programs out on an island all doing their own thing and a drag on resources? How do we get together and do some of these things together? So whether that be our virtual prospect days, our in-person prospect days, how are we getting the message out, but not just letting them know, like, yeah, this program and this coach is excellent, but like what we're doing as a department is excellent. A lot of that also comes from like taking our resources and spreading them across the department. I think the philosophy, if you go to some schools, are like, all right, we're going to get these two programs jumping. And if I could get basketball and football really jumping, everything else will come along. That does not fit the ethos of a Macalester. We talk a lot about equity here. And so how do we have the rising tide raise all of the boats? And so I think we've done some things here that have uniquely changed the way we see the world and the way we impact our students. The first is athletic fundraising. That wasn't really a thing at Macalester. I mean, there was money coming in, but never really intentional dollars to impact the student experience. Now we're raising money for varsity club sports. And so those millions of dollars that have come in that have both helped us in the year-to-year or the day-to-day operation of the department also are now turning into endowments, which are going to help our programs in perpetuity, but they're also like helping our club sports who, after the pandemic, like everybody's trying to do more with more. Mm-hmm. Our club teams want to win just as bad as varsity teams, and don't have as much time to dedicate to it. So just doing some things that Macalester just hasn't been used to doing. Like, I feel like my job here is to just make people just a little bit uncomfortable, but then also challenging people with our own language so that we're all kind of can be bought into what this means. Ultimately, at the center of all this is, you look at our college core values, excellence is the foundation. And something I push the institution on, even in the interview process, is you can't call yourself excellent and then have teams over here getting their ass kicked, on a regular basis. If you're going to be excellent, you need to be excellent across the board. And if you look across Division III, the top institutions in the country, and I'll use the Directors Cup standings, they look like us. Yeah. They look like us. High academic standards, and they're winning games on the field. So why shouldn't we replicate that excellence all over campus? So to have athletics as an outlier didn't really make sense to me. And it was why I wanted the job and why I think like it's, to me, why the job feels so special, because you feel us trending up saying, yep, we're going to look like everybody else here soon. And so it's like, we're so close right now. And I think that next jump is going to come here pretty soon.
Well, that's exciting. And, I think about it from the baseball program's perspective. I told you I had a conversation with a high school coach, and I was telling him about Macalester, and, some of our guys come in and, they're not the most talented baseball players. Yeah. They achieve very highly in academics. But one of the things that surprised me is the level of growth and the level of learning. I feel like they can take in information and they can apply it faster than I could have actually done it. Like I myself, I just had to go to a batting cage. I had to take 10,000 reps to get something right. it's like, and then I can use that wisdom and impart that out of them. And sometimes I see our guys implement it almost instantly.
Yeah.
I immediately see them get better. I'm like, that took me so long to do.
Yeah.
But no, I love what you said around excellence, and I think that's something that every program that I've even been involved with, like I chat with Abe all the time. I sat in on their practice, and he preached excellence in offense, defense, listening in on what he's actually trying to teach them, and I think a lot of people when they think about Macalester, they think, oh, really high level academics, and their programs are maybe in the bottom half of the conference. Now, I wanted to chat with you a little bit more about how, achieving very high in academics, comes at a cost to some of the programs. Some of the students, they miss practices or they, I don't know if they miss games. I highly doubt that. But, how are you allowing the athletes to balance the rigors of academics plus the rigors of sport?
Yeah, that's a tough one. So, and I'm constantly in conversations about how to maximize everything for a student. But the reality is, there's so many hours in a day, and we want and need this time to help them get better at their craft. But also, they came here, and the main thing, they came here for the main thing, and that's progress towards graduation with a Macalester degree. There is no work-life balance. I don't know if there's a perfect mix of that, but what I can do and can ask is that we help our students find joy in what they're doing. Like, my hope is that every student comes to practice, and I use volleyball for an example. Like, there's joy in the gym when I go in there. You know what I mean? I want that to be the best 2 hours or hour and a half of their day. Some of our teams can't even get a whole 2-hour practice in, because of demands of study groups and night classes and other things. And so I think one is because I take time away from their lives, I feel like we also need to supplement the other areas of their lives. So we're having a meet with folks to talk about sleep. We're talking about eating to win. We have a sports psychologist in-house 2 days a week meeting with students to talk about any of the number of challenges that they could be facing. We talk about healthy relationships, sexual violence prevention. We do a number of things to help students become hopefully more well-rounded folks who can make tough decisions in the hardest times. I think our leadership development program, it takes time and it takes lessons in leadership, but these are lessons and assessments and a curriculum. It's the kind of thing that you get if you go work for a Fortune 500 company and they really want to invest in you. So they're going to have you do strengths. So the DISC assessment with your team. So we're doing a lot of those things and then engaging alumni to come in so that they see value in this sport experience. Is not just a wins or a loss thing, because sometimes you may lose more than when you win. I will say, I feel now like the trajectory is once you in the Commissioner's Cup, we move from the bottom. Now we're at the middle, so that means, you've hit something and now you've seen what your college has invested in you. Now, my hope is that they're thinking, well, if we did a little bit more of both of these things, we can have more. And I think that's kind of the rub we have right now. I think our faculty members see how much these students care and are invested in their athletic experience. Therefore, they show up and they're trying to bounce between things, and it's tough. But I mean, when I was at Williams, we were excellent and excellent. When I was at Dartmouth, we won our first Ivy League championship in I don't know what the number of years was, but we won our first championship in football while I was there. And it was when we got there, it was yeah, this is what we should be doing. Yeah. And I don't feel like that's any different here. So I don't feel I don't feel bad when our kids are succeeding in both areas, because I know they're sacrificing everything they do. But the question is are they passionate about what they're doing, and are they having a good time doing what they're doing? And so I appreciate my coaches for creating environments, and that's kind of my job as an athletic director. Am I giving them an environment that they can succeed in, and can they also provide our students the kind of environments they could be successful in and want to go to? And that's how it's different or you're winning. Because I just watched a news report about my women's basketball team, and our star player was getting interviewed, and she said something, our team is different now. Our roster was 8 people when I got here. Yeah. Now it's 17, 18 people. And, if they're not playing, it's because they're hurt. They're not quitting, And so I feel really good about our programs and like the number of students on them. And when I talk about these things, I could say, oh, we're doing so great. But really the evidence is we've got about close to like 70 more athletes than we did 5 years ago on our rosters. That means they're sticking around. And so it allows me to make, and I have to make now, accommodations. I got to think about new locker rooms, right? Because those are the spaces where they're having even more critical conversations that sometimes they're having with you and me. So I think there's a lot of signs that, that things are going well. But the most important sign, even with the rubs of classroom and athletics, I'm sorry, coaches, academics is always first. But we're winning more games, and our average GPAs, I got 3.66.
Yeah, it's very
so impressive. I'm like, for anybody who complains out there, I got scholars and ballers, and that's at the end of the day, all we could all wish for. We want to win more in all areas. That we're recruiting the right kids to help us do that.
Well, and I think it's so fascinating too, because I've always thought about how sport is a game of life, no matter what sport you play. You're learning how to thrive in a team environment. You're learning valuable skills like communication. You're learning how to deal with failure, deal with wins, deal with losses. And, Matt Parrington, I always love when he talks about, peaks and valleys. Your college experience is going to have the high highs, you're going to have low lows, but you can stay consistent on what you're doing, your experience will be all that more valuable. And, I think it's so important, with, the rigors of being a student here in Macalester, like you have to be like consistent on what you're doing, because, I've seen, some of our players before, I shouldn't, not now, but in the past where, one side became too much. Either they weren't succeeding here or succeeding in academics, and they kind of fall off. How do you help students along that way?
I think though it's a reality. Like we all got tough decisions to make, and when one thing is falling off, that means we got to go dedicate more time to it. So I think it's really common. And you see this on the baseball team. Like we're sorry, we just got some kids who are gonna be 30 minutes late to practice because of class. Like we got to make sure the main thing stays the main thing. Because if students aren't progressing towards graduation, and we're winning a bunch of games, that I'm not going to be the athletic director here for very long. But I also say, that we have had students in my time here walk away from the sport because they need to focus on the other thing. And that, because that is the priority, and that's okay, whether that be mental health, right? Some students just, it is more, they've had a traumatic experience in some aspect of their lives. If I want them to be whole, they got to go focus on the thing that's going to help make them whole. Academically, if you are, if you're not holding up in that side of campus, or your GPA is suffering, there's really no way you're going to be successful in baseball or whatever sport, because you can be thinking about all of the things that you're missing out. And I think that's something kind of we learned in the pandemic. Like at the end of the day, coach, you got to take time to do what's best to take care of you.
Sure.
So I think the best thing we could do is provide them all the resources. So I think for us, it's like the web of resources between your coach, between Devin and student development and success, between athletic director who's going to be yelling at you and cheering on the sideline, between the sports psychologist, between your athletic trainer, between your strength coach. It's our job to really hopefully identify when we feel like the things are off. And then, as they do at the doctor's office, they triage to get you to the right person. And I feel like that's the job for us, is we have to be the web of resources, and then we got to get you to the right place where you can get what you need. I call it a buffet a lot. I like food analogies, food, but you don't need to eat. When you go to a buffet, you don't just load up and not go back. There's a lot of things that you can have and want and desire. Our students want to be, the president of a club. They want to be, a 4.0 GPA, and an All-American at this sport. In order to have some success at what they're doing here, they're going to need to just continue to use the resources. They're going to need to come eat. And so we try to keep the buffet plentiful and the options of resources there, with kind of the more critical ones there and accessible to them when they really, really need them.
That's amazing. And what I've noticed with a lot of the programs, there's a very small number of athletes that are from Minnesota.
Yeah.
And, I'm curious if you have any effect on, where they recruit from, or like, are you really looking for a huge student athlete population from across the country? Are you looking for more student athletes here in Minnesota? Kind of give me, I've been wondering about this because it fascinates me.
I think a lot of it has to do with history. I think a lot of it has to do with like trends in higher ed and the cost of higher ed. But ultimately, yeah, we're we are elite and elite cost. And I think some people look at the sticker price and they're like, you know what, I could do this, or I could go somewhere else. I could get reciprocity in Wisconsin, which almost cost me nothing. And so I think a lot of people look at this and say, this may not be for me. But what I try to tell folks is, if you can have, the same caliber of education and be surrounded by the most brilliant students you've ever been around, and it's in your backyard, you should probably take a look at it.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think, like, right now, if you look at this place and then you look at our rosters, you'd be like, this is like, we are Northern California East, sprinkled in with some Southern California, some New England and New York, some Texas. Ironically, we've had to work really hard to build some pockets of success in places where we don't traditionally go. We've been intentional about going to spend time, even collectively as a group, in places like Houston. But I will say it's been a challenge getting students to come out of our backyard, because there's a lot of options here in the Midwest as well. But also, like, I do think folks, and this is going to sound like a diss, but I do think, like, some people will look at a private education and not really understand the difference between a Macalester and a St. Olaf or Gustavus or some of the other small private liberal arts colleges. And I'm here to tell folks this is different. Having worked at places like Williams and Dartmouth and Millsaps in the South, working at Millsaps, I met really brilliant kids who were probably from some of the poorest counties in the country. Coming here, I really am convinced that, somebody who's going to change the world is coming out of this place, because they are the most determined students. My students protest a lot of stuff now. They know the difference between wrong and right. And they don't fight for what's right every time, which has led to different conversations for me as an athletic director. It makes me see the world differently and really think, spiritually, philosophically, like, how am I serving the least of us? How am I serving those who don't have people standing up and fighting for them? And so, that's kind of like, that may not be in everybody's ethos. I think we're probably, it narrows the kind of student that we look for. But I think if students in Minnesota came and visit and really got a feel for the college, they say, yeah, that place is kind of different. But also, like, I'm not looking for somebody who wants to, if you had the nicest high school locker room and, this may not be the place for you right now. Like in a month from now or 6 months from now or a year, yeah, we'll have some really nice locker rooms, but that's not the main thing. Here, I would say the people are the main thing. If you want to be the show on campus or the big man or woman on campus, like, sports is important here now. We used to be on the back porch. Now we're in the living room with our feet kicked up, but we're not going to be on the front porch like at a University of Minnesota. What I think this place is for is, like, this is like for the giant slayer. You got a couple stones and you want to go sling them at a giant. We got plenty of giants in this conference, and that's who we are right now. We are giant slayers who come from diverse backgrounds from really all over the country, but even all over the world. And if you just want to go and, have a fraternity, sorority style experience, that's going to be out there for you at a lot of other places. But if you want to come and be challenged, like, not everybody's looking for that.
Right.
So I'm okay like I know those kids exist here, and I got to go find those kids. We used to have more of them out of Mankato, the Iron Range, like those kind of places. And we need to go find more of those students, because the other great thing we do is like our financial aid is unbelievable. If you have need, we meet full need. On the flip side of that, it's becoming so hard to get in here.
Mhm.
Like we say no to so many kids who we would consider the perfect kid,
Sure.
so it has its challenges. But every time I look at the class and meet the students who's coming in, I'm like, man, these kids they're really impressive, really special. And so, to the parents and the students, if anybody has ever told you you have the ability to change and impact the world, come hang out with some world changers. Parents, if you thought you think you have an exceptional student, you think they're the best thing since sliced bread, and you want them to change the world, send them our way. We'll help them out.
I would say that's a heck of a calling, and I love that. It's like, why do you get up every day and do this? I see you running around everywhere. It's hard to get time with you, but this is really about like, what's your rise and go? Like, what motivates you to do this each and every day?
That's a great question, and my brain won't shut down thinking about this thing sometimes, and it slows down because I really have to lock in sometimes. I'm probably, one of the poster child for the adult ADD. But I'm really thinking about this place a lot, wake up thinking about it, go to bed at night, emailing about it. But I think the thing that gets me up and go every morning, the first thing I do my duty in the morning is to wake up my son, Emmanuel, 6 years old. And, we start every morning with like our life playlist, probably my life's playlist. So, he's listening to some Kendrick, we'll take it to the trap every once in a while, get the clean version of some 21 Savage.
Sure.
But, it could be Earth, Wind, and Fire. It could be, Isley Brothers or whatever it may be. But he's gonna, wake up. Like that to me is like the joy, waking him up, getting him dressed, getting him ready for the day. And then I walk him to the school bus, no matter whether it's -20 or whatever it was this morning. So that's my get up and go. And then on my arm is my dog Nala, and Nala doesn't mess around. She got to get her walks in. She gonna let you know when this is walk time. And so that allows me to get some clarity in the morning, think about my schedule, how I'm approach the day. But the passion and the love for the game is still the most important thing. I will call it like the hardest part of my day, maybe, is you've worked all day. You were in the office at 7:30, 8. You had a day full of meetings, and then you get to this point where, man, I got to be the game manager for a game. Now, some people would be ready to go home after that. I'm going to be in the corner of the gym cheering my ass off for my team. And if that part is the hardest part for my day, I get to cheer on my teams. I mean, I got the best job in the world. I don't really watch pro sports as much. I can't spend like that 2 hours I used to give to pro sports.
Yeah.
It's either, watching my family, watching I have a 17-year-old dancer. I've got a 14-year-old girls basketball player and lacrosse player, and then I got my 6-year-old. But I can't give some of that stuff my attention because I'm too worried about what the hell Macalester's doing. Are the Scots in it? Are the Scots fighting? And I feel like my body and voice in the corner of the gym cheering defense helps us. Like, if that could get us one more point or one more stop, I'm gonna yell till I lose my voice, and I have not lost it yet.
I love it. No, I think that's so important too. It's like I have found my level of commitment to the players on our program, specifically my outfielders. I mean, it just continues to grow day by day. It's like sometimes I find myself like having conversations. I mean, I wish they'd go to sleep earlier, but I talk to some of them at 10:30, 11:30 at night, and they have questions or trying to pick my brain on things. And it's like, I'm so like deeply rooted in like their success on and off the field that, I feel like just like my passion, not only for the guys that I coach, but for Macalester as a whole, continues to grow each and every day.
Yeah, I agree. I think, when your mission is outlined and clear, at the end of the day, again, we haven't won the championships. I wish I had 5 rings on my hand right now. I'm really in year 5 after COVID. I got here, 10 months, 11 months later, we had COVID, kind of lost a lot. But now in year 5 and turning the corner and having a couple teams, individual athletes, too, who are performing at a really high level, like, man, this swim championship coming up in a couple weeks here, like our students expect to go in and just show off. And so being in that space, I used to get my joy from just being in the mix with students.
Yeah.
The 5 minutes before the actual meeting, just figuring out how everybody's life is. And now I get more of that enjoyment popping in and bothering my coaches. I do have strong relationships with students, but I mean, I get that joy, I think, even with some of the non-varsity athletes here, some of our club athletes, some of our kids who just showed up in the gym by accident, because I'm really bought into the mission of the institution, and so I think when all of those things can align, my family is a part of this. I'm believing what we're doing and who we're doing it for, and then you start to see outcomes. It's hard not to be excited about coming in every day.
I love it. So where can our listeners find you, like you on social media and the Macalester social media?
You'll find me there at AD Donnie Brooks on Instagram and Twitter. I'm not, it's funny. I probably don't spend as much time telling the story as I should. I spend a lot of time retweeting and liking our stuff. But I want the story to tell itself, kind of. I'm glad I get the opportunity to do this, because I get to talk about how special it is. But yeah, you'll find me. You'll find pictures of me and Emmanuel hanging out. Me and my teenagers probably making fun of me.
Yeah.
On those platforms. But the most important place that you could go to see what's going on in the lives of and what's going on here in Macalester is at Macalester SCOTS. And our Instagram, Twitter, not so much anymore, but our Instagram is live. We just hired a new developer or a new director of creative content. So you'll see some really great stories of what's going on in the lives of our student athletes and how much fun they have.
Yeah, I'm excited for baseball's media day. It's coming up, I believe, at the end of this month, and I know the guys, they really enjoy that. The content that's coming out of like Macalester Sky, I have seen it like actually evolve so much in these past like 1 to 2 years, and I'm excited to see like what's next for these guys, because I know that the athletes, they eat that stuff up when they can enjoy themselves with that.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of like my peers. I won't call it burnout, but it's like I don't really want to self-promote. I want to see our kids be promoted. So the main thing is Macalester SCOTS. But when you go to that website and the stories that we're telling now, whether it's our Black History spotlights or our media days that teams are doing, but every day I feel like I get to see SCOTS win. There's a graphic that goes up when we win and SCOTS win. And that's the story that we want to tell, along with, most, we had our highest number of all academic conference award winners this year. So yeah, that's the main thing, man. And so as long as the main thing keeps being the main thing, me and you gonna be able to keep hanging out.
Yeah, right. Ain't that the truth? Well, hey, thank you so much for joining us here on the Rise and Go podcast. This was amazing. I'm so glad we got to do this. And go SCOTS.
No, thank you. Appreciate it. Go SCOTS.